Literally, if we'd have just recorded what we said in our phone call the other day, it would have been a banging show.
You could just record all of our phone calls to make banging shows.
No, exactly, mate. Just Chris, take one. Not the 5 a.m. ones.
Hey everyone, and welcome to today's show. We're absolutely stoked to have Chirs Jefford here with us today. Today could well be the greatest ever podcast recorded in the history of planet Earth. So I'm going to set the bar high. But all joking aside, yeah, we're thrilled to have you on board today, Chris.
I've got two warm-up questions for you. Yep. Couldn't help but notice on your website. Number one, what's your go-to karaoke song?
I once busted out what I would consider to be the best Ice Ice Baby ever seen in a Ghanaian bar in Accra. So I'll always go back to that, I think. Ice Ice Baby, it's a classic.
That's a good one. And fancy dress, what's your go-to?
I hate fancy dress. If we're going to talk any more fancy dress, we'll have to end it now. Honestly, I was chatting to someone yesterday about that, and he's got a dress-up box in his house, and I'm just very anti that.
You had a bit of fancy dress this weekend, mate, didn't you, with Halloween?
Yeah. A couple of ghosts. This stuff isn't for the podcast, but now we're starting.
Right, we're rolling.
Now we're cooking.
Chris, Truant's been going for, in various guys, 12 years now.
Business has been going for 12 years. Truant as a brand has been around for about 5.5, I would say.
Yeah. So, advertising agency, for those that don't know, sort of Truant just by name, yeah? Yeah. We've had loads of conversations over the years about that journey for you, like personally, and how you've evolved that. So, like, there's so much gold for people to learn from that. So, I'd love for you to talk about and to the Truant story for a while, and we can kind of riff off that.
Yeah. If I just go back, so I'll go back to a bit about my personal story, I suppose, how I kind of got to be where I am. I was born in East London. Mum's a housewife. Dad did a variety of jobs, probably something we might come back to actually, but he's reinvented himself a number of times through his career. He was a journalist, then became an ad man, then was in research, then he became a hypnotherapist at the end. I was fortunate enough to grow up in an area which was, my parents moved along the district line, so they ran out of track, and we grew up in Upminster. We went to the same school, comp school, but kind of had all the sort of facilities of a private school, really, didn't it? Felt really fortunate to do that. And I was a real techie when I was a kid. So my dad brought home 16K rubber key Spectrum back in the day. I learned to program at an early age. I was probably about 10 when I first started to program. And I really just developed a love of new things and certainly technology things. Went to secondary school, ran my first business in the playground when I was about 14 or 15. I wrote this shows how insanely old I am, but pre-fantasy football league, there used to be a thing called play by mail. I don't know if you would ever get into that. You'd have to be like a real geek of a football fan to be into it. But you used to be able to send money to somebody. You'd pick a team, so I'd be Liverpool. You'd send money to this person in the post, the actual post, stick some pound coins to a bet card and send it. Tell him what your team selection would be, and then once a week he'd send you a printout of all the results of other people that had also picked teams to see who'd won and lost. So it was like a precursor to a fantasy football team. I wrote a back end for that to enable you to do your own ones. So I advertised it in 90 minutes and used to get like a stack of £5 checks landed on my mum's doormat when I was like 15, running this little business. So I think I've always had this little entrepreneurial itch that I needed to scratch. Went to uni, went to Sheffield, had a really lovely upbringing, but always wanted to leave home kind of as quickly as I could. Went to Sheffield, Britpop era, like pulp, all the rest of it. That was really exciting. And I probably should have done computer science because I was a real techie, but I've always had a real issue with having my life mapped out for me. And even at that age, I knew that I didn't want to be on a set path to somewhere. So I kind of thought if I did computer science, I'd probably become a programmer and I'd talk in noughts and ones for the rest of my life, and it wasn't really what I wanted to do. So I did economics, and then didn't do particularly well at economics, but I did that because it was, again, a broad, just gave me a broad sense of what I could then take that and then do professionally, I suppose, longer term. And then, then I just started on my career. My first job was in technology, so I was a IT guy, effectively, for a small company in Covent Garden. I've never had a boss, really, like my entire career. So even in that first job, it's mad they gave me the responsibility. But I looked after their database, all their network. I learned how to network. I learned all this kind of stuff, and it was really interesting. But it was in a recruitment agency, and at that point in time, this thing called the internet was blowing up, and the recruitment company had a new media division, as it was back then. And I remember tapping the guy on the shoulder and said, "You need to get me into this internet thing because it feels exciting, and I don't really want to do the network thing for much longer. I've kind of done that, I'm a bit bored of it." So I got a job as a producer working for a search engine, pre-Google, original.com, owned by the Telegraph, no business model, fun times, like 5 guys in a big office, like, you know, Amsterdam for the Christmas party. Like, you know, it's kind of, you know, the great days of the pre.com bubble burst. Pre-Google, Google then arrived, blew it out the water, changed the game, obviously. But then I was kind of in that world of like software as a service, internet, like I was at the forefront of it. Did a couple of other things, and mid 2000s stepped out and went traveling and just sort of had a relationship breakup, decided to leave London, disappear for 6 months, did some football coaching in West Africa, travel around Southeast Asia. And when I was coming back, I thought, I sort of had an awareness that I had a really short attention span. I was like, I'm really jumping around a lot here, like what should I do? So I thought, hey, advertising and advertising agencies seemed like a really good home for me potentially, because I could work on a whole bunch of different things all the time. From like, my first client was Microsoft, so I could work on Microsoft 1 minute, or I could be working on a booze brand the next, or whatever. So knew how to build things, became a digital project manager at an advertising agency, was at a big network agency called Wonderman for 9 months. It was too big for me. Went to a small boutique creative agency called Holler. It was too small for me, kind of like Goldilocks story. Landed at an agency called Saint, whenever it was. Met my now partners, Dave and Simon, at this place. And at Saint, I was the innovations director. Leaned into strategy, leaned into creative. Again, I was able to use the fact I was into lots of different things in this one kind of role. And then, 12 years ago, so we ran that agency of the year a couple of times, built a great culture, learned what it takes to kind of build, rebuild, grow a business on someone else's money. And then 12 years ago, we decided to start our own agency. That journey in itself has been a fascinating one. So we started that business hand on heart with one intention, which was probably to sell that business. And that was the extent of the plan that we had as a group of individuals starting a business. We were completely naive. We had no sort of growth strategy. We didn't quite know, what clients we were going to go after. We just thought, we like working with each other. We do good work. We've done it for other people, we do it ourselves. That was fine. So we were called Hometown originally. For about 7 years, we ran that agency. We worked with some great clients, ITV, Qatar Airways, Bupa, Swatch. Really good, broad spread of creative work we did for them, TV work, digital, social. And then after about 7 years, we just had a period of feeling really disgruntled and fell out of love with our own business. And we sort of looked at it, and in fact, I always remember this, we went to a talk once. It was an M&A guy, and he was talking about how businesses grow and how agencies exit and stuff like that. And he said, you are exponentially more likely to go bust starting a business than you are experience a significant financial event. He's like, that's just stats, that's what happens in business. So to create a business with the sole intention of selling a business is wrong, it's mad, because the odds are stacked against you. What you should do is start the business. If you had to, you'd be happy to work out for the rest of your life. And I was with my partner at the time, Simon, and we looked at each other and we were like, fuck, we haven't done that, have we? We've not done that. We've created this business which has just become like every other business. It doesn't feel like it's ours. Like, we're led by the client work we do. We haven't designed it properly. We haven't kind of made it a reflection of what we are as people. So we took the decision to, we either quit, either put our head in the sand and carry on as we are, or we change it. So we decided to dismantle our business at the time when it was probably working at its best, and launch Truant as a new type of agency that sets an expectation for the type of work we want to do. I think Truant as a name, just as a theme, is like full of interesting semiotics about doing things differently and kind of going against status quo and whatnot. We brought music into our own business because we felt that actually in a communications sphere, music's such a powerful and underutilized weapon, and that the way music has been disrupted over the last 20 years means there's so many more ways that brands can engage in music through artist partnerships, fan culture, etc. And yeah, fast forward to now, we have a business that I am deeply in love with. We've got 32 people. We've got a business that feels very different, feels very us. Yeah. Clients know why they're with us and equally why maybe we're not right for them. So we've developed a slightly polarizing business in a good way. Yeah, it's probably the longest answer to any question you've ever had.
That's very good.
Well, how important is culture, and how do you ensure that you're building a good culture, and how would you define what a good culture is?
So multi-layers there, right? So for me, what is culture? Culture is a set of behaviours you see in a room. That's all it is. Nothing more to it than that. As a leader, so I'm CEO of the business. It's my job to set the tempo and set the bar for what I think are the type of behaviours that will move us forward as a business. As an advertising agency, it's often said that all you have of value in an ad agency are the people that go up and down in the lift. Like, we're a people business. That's all we are. Like, really, it's very rare that you would own a piece of proprietary technology, for example. And pre-Truant, we were one of those agencies that were absolutely the same as everybody else. Like, pre to bring in the music element in. So, I think you have to define that culture as a leader. With the culture that we've defined, the set of values that we've defined, are that we want to be rebellious in nature. We want to be a rewarding place to work. We want to be respected for the work we do and the way that we work, and we want to be responsible in the way we do it. So kind of 4 R's, pillars of the business that sort of lead everything we do. To build a great culture, you repeat. That you have to kind of, and in various different ways, we get that right and get that wrong at various different points. The minute you take your eye off the ball, your culture disintegrates before your eyes. You have to be really active in building your culture, or in helping people to act in a way that feels positive and like helpful and supportive and all the good things that we need our business to be.
Are you saying that culture is set by the top and it filters down, or is it bottom up, or is it somewhere in between?
So I think you set it from the top. I do think you set the set of values in the business that you want to see. Now, it's then activated at the bottom. It's activated through the business, and it will change and evolve, and there'll be things that you don't expect to happen that happen, and it will sometimes evolve for the better and sometimes evolve for the worse. And I think as a leader, you've got to be on top of that. You really do. Now, you can't control the way people act, so I'm not in the business of telling people how to act. But I think you can set the tempo for the business. Set the tempo, set the vision, set the aspiration, set the ambition for the business. And the culture will build from there, I think.
And what's the outcome of that?
I think I think that, there's a great book called Good to Great by Jim Collins, which you may or may not have read. There's a bit that always stuck in my head, which is it's kind of 2 types of leaders, effectively. And one kind of has an empty bus and sits at the front of the bus and says, I'm going to drive this bus to a destination. This is where we're going to go as a business. And he fills all the seats with the people he needs to kind of get to that destination. There's another leader, which I think I am, who fills the bus full of smart people and then goes, I'm excited to see where you take it. And that's my approach to running the business. So where does a positive culture take you? Who knows? But it's exciting and it feels cohesive and it feels supportive while you're doing it. And it allows for mistakes to be made, and it allows for people to, certainly in our business, turn up as they are, feel fully supported. You know, like if someone has a problem at home, we just let them sort it out. Like, we'll cover you. You know, like so. So I think it keeps people together. It makes sure people are all on the same page. It's great for retention. It's great for advocacy. It's great for clients. Like, you know, I think we said this the other day. You know, someone once said to me that if you don't love your business, no one else will love it. And for many years, I didn't love it. I do love it now, and I love the culture that we're striving to create. And yeah, we fuck it up loads, but we're you know, present enough to kind of look at it and go, how do we course correct?
Yeah.
Phenomenal. That's good. Yeah, I mean, like the two other themes I'm picking up are like curiosity, right? It seems like you're always interested in a lot of different things, which is great. I'm very similar. I think I'm probably maybe undiagnosed ADHD or something, because my mind is a million different places at once. It's everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. But the other thing is, it seems like paired with that curiosity is a real sense of purpose and intention about what you do. So it sounds like you've really thought long and hard about like the kind of place you want to build. And I mean, is that fair to say that there was a moment where you were maybe going with the flow and that led to the business being not quite what you want, and then was there a moment where you're like, I've got to take control of this?
Yeah, I think the easy thing to do would have been just to suck it up, carry on, expect it to change, do the same thing and expect a different result. But what going through that period, and do you know what, like, you know, we knew nothing when we started the business, really, about running a business. So when it's your money and it's your responsibility and it's people relying on you to pay their mortgages or their rent or whatever, like, it's a lot, you know, and you find your way through that as a leadership team. I think where we had got to was that the business was commercially successful, but it was like spiritually and creatively, not creatively, but kind of, it didn't feel like I was excited by it. And I have always done, so my partners have always worked in advertising. Brilliant at what they do, you know, like met each other when they were learning to swim at the age of 4 and became best friends ever since. Great partners to have in the business, but have always been in advertising. I've done lots of different things. So I'm often the one in the room who will say, why don't we try to change this? Or why are we doing this? Could we go over here? Could we kind of, you know, I'm restless by nature to just do different things. And that can be hard, it can be quite tiring. You're the one in the room that feels like trying to move it on and change it a bit. But what's the alternative? The alternative is you sit there doing a job you don't like for the rest of your life, and then you wake up.
It's mad. Like we've known each other for like 30 plus years, and like just listening to you, I said this to you like in the call the other day. Like there'll be stuff that I'll learn from this, that, you know, we've been like great friends for so long, that I'll pick up on as well. And there's so many similarities, I think, for me as well. Just that constant like curiosity. I'm always like, oh, I've found this new book or this new podcast or something, and it just like influences me. And then I want to experience that, and I want to kind of. And it's interesting how you've like navigated that and become like almost like at peace increasingly with that, and knowing that that's almost like your superpower as opposed to something you kind of need to fight against. Yeah. Or as you said there with a great example, I remember you telling me about that story where there was there like a team photograph or something, or whatever, photos of you, and you had like the shirt on afterwards, and you looked at it and you're like, why am I wearing a shirt? Like you were just trying to fit into what you thought was a stereotypical like CEO role, but wasn't like you as like you. And even like talking on the way in this morning, Chris, like we've had a million conversations over the years, and especially around sort of like work, and like today was one of the point, like the way you came in was so like positive about the business and the people you've got on board and the direction it's going. It just like, it feels like that's like you're really, really like stepping into your power and your like and your impact as an agency, and it being, as you said to that point there, which I think is really, really important, like we should all just come in and like authentically be ourselves and do work we love. And very, very, for me, it's about like, if you stand up for these things and have these strong kind of like moral compass, but like a cultural compass at the top, like that attracts the clients you want. It attracts the mentality of people that, you know, are probably all very, very different in many ways, which you need that, but it attracts that and everyone to kind of grow together, right? And it's like,
I think that we've gone through a lot of change in the agency this last sort of 12 months, and change is really difficult. Like in any business, change is hard. Like we work with brands all the time, and you know we might go through change programs with them, or you know give them a new campaign or a new brand idea or whatever, and like you know, and change is difficult for people to get their heads around sometimes. But the upside of change is so good. It's so exciting. You know, we all went out for dinner last night. We've new people in the business, new ideas, new roles, new kind of like just new blood. Do you know what I mean? And you kind of and then you go back to my like bus analogy. I don't know where. You know, I used to for years where people would sit there sometimes in interviews actually and be like, "What's the strategy for the business, Chris?" And I'm like, and for a while you always feel like you want to go do the kind of, I want to double in size. I want to get to 60 people. I want to do X revenue. I want to get like 20% margin. I want to exit at some point. But actually, the strategy for the business is hire smart people that are way smarter than me, that can take this business, create an environment where they can thrive, and then they'll take the business. That's the upshot of the strategy. We will have an interesting business that will constantly change, will constantly be relevant, will be hard to swap out for another agency, which is another thing was that, you know, in our industry, one of the biggest frustrations, again, my dad said this to me years ago, he said the big challenge of advertising is you're always trying to replace the client that you've just won yesterday, because the turnover in clients and agency relationship is so high. And I remember once sitting there going, why is that? And the reason is because a client just goes, well, I could swap you out for another agency. Just, you know, take the square peg out of the square hole and plug another square peg in it and we're done. And I didn't want that. I wanted to have a business that felt genuinely different, that was unswap-outable.
Yeah.
There's a really good book by Peter Thiel, which I might have shared with you before, who's a horrendous right-winger, but a ex-PayPal founder, and his book's called 0 to 1, and he talks about how it's pointless starting a business where there's lots of other businesses in that space doing the same thing that you're doing. It's absolutely pointless. He's like, monopolies are the way forward. Like, even if you've got a monopoly in the world's tiniest market, start there, because why would you start a business that had lots of competitors? And that's the advertising space. Advertising agencies have thousands of competitors. Yeah. I like to think that we're one of the few who have tried to limit that. Yeah. You know, we're quite, so maybe we're limiting our market a little bit, but that's fine because there aren't any other agencies doing what we're doing.
Yeah, but you've done that by creating almost a monopoly of like being just different in the way you approach things and your
yeah.
mentality.
We've got a little slide in our creds that just says life's too short to be the same as everybody else. So, you know, and we preach that to clients, we preach that internally, we preach that in our own business. So yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like being like, you know, the quality of work, but it's about the difference, isn't it? And being like, you know, like focusing on how you're different from.
Yeah, but you guys know this, right? You guys have started your business similar times to us, I think. How long have you been doing what you do?
Good Planets. Yeah, similar thing. I mean, literally probably was like a month or so before. Well, we worked together before, but we kind of like where we'd worked a lot together and increasingly like connected as friends and connected creatively with the impact we wanted to have. Like it was just like pretty much when the pandemic was starting, just before that, wasn't it? Yeah.
But you go through that. Like you'll meander and find ways and see new things that you could to play with, and like other ways of like scratching that creative itch, and like you know you finding new ways to make money, and you know so you kind of there's no fixed route. It's not linear, is it? Life's not linear. Yeah. So
if you were to start again and take a business from naught to where you are now, what would be the first 5 steps you would take?
I might not be able to give you 5 steps, but
one's fine.
So I would have a plan first and foremost. I'd understand the type of business I wanted to create. I'd understand what my non-negotiables are as a business owner. Like, kind of what do I need? Like, so first and foremost, and maybe I said it in my intro, I'm a dad. Like, you know, I'm a dad, I'm a husband, I'm a son, I'm a brother. Like, you know, I'm kind of friends. Business owners, like one of those extra things that you don't have to take on. But if you do, you've got to find a way of getting it to fit. So I think you have to look at how I'm going to create a business that's going to fit and be additive to my life rather than take massive chunks out of it. I think that, in that plan and in that kind of is around where's the opportunity for us as an agency? Where's the opportunity for us to make a difference, either in this market or with people or with, whatever the space is that I would move into. But, where's the opportunity to really have impact? And that, obviously we talk a lot about environmental impact or kind of, impact on people's mental health. Like, advertising agencies historically, horrible places to work. Like, late nights, working till the morning, weekends, we've all been there. And we decided we'd never do that with our agency, ever. Like, yeah, we have peaks and troughs of work, of course we do. But it's the exception, not the rule. So again, I think you create the business that is most like you, I think. Like, you can't be anybody else. And it really is a learning, I think we talked about this as well, didn't we? Like, this idea of place, this idea of finding your place and finding your tribe, finding your people. I think a business is very much like that. Like, you want to create a place which just feels like home to many people. There's a lot said about kind of businesses as families, and you shouldn't use terminology like that. I think that's fucking bullshit. I'm like, you spend so much time with these people. You should have a very tight, cohesive, honest relationship with them that does feel a bit like family, I think. So yeah.
It feels like you're having great success in terms of building that like culture through the agency, and then also being like present enough and also introspective enough to see that filter back into your kind of thinking from people you bring on, Chris. So they'll come in with like through the lens of the kind of mindset you want to bring in, but then like there are examples of how I suppose, like, I don't know, the learning's always two ways, but like how those inputs have come back and changed your perspective.
So I interview every person that we hire in the business. Yeah. And someone said this to me weirdly at dinner last night. It's like, do you interview everyone that we hire? I was like, yeah. Because for me, there is a mindset that makes somebody able to shine at a place like Truant. That isn't, like, Truant's not for everyone. I said, this is my anti-sell whenever I interview someone. I'm like, there are far easier places to work than our place, because we expect a lot. We give you a lot of accountability straight off the bat. I have one thing I ask you of everyone, which is leave a mark on this business. Like, when you finally leave to do something else, make sure you've changed this business in some way, because if you haven't, you've not delivered. But genuinely, that's it. It's kind of 3 layers. It's like, do your job brilliantly, be really skilled at what we employ you to do, but change the department that you're in and make that better and evolve it, and then change the business, because the business is just the projects. Like, how do we, like, what are we going to do? Back to the bus. Like, where are you going to take it? So I think that's really important. So everyone I speak to in an interview, I'm culturally testing, is probably the wrong word, but do you know what I mean? Like, I'm putting it through my own cultural filter. They're going, are you going to be, because it's only fair to them and fair to me that we have a really honest conversation about what it's really like to work here and what we expect. Because anyone can apply for a project manager job or a designer job or a creative job. There's lots of good people out there, but there aren't necessarily people who have the entrepreneurial mindset or the ability to kind of sit there and go, oh, I'm going to take this and I'm going to do something over here and make it happen.
If that's your anti-pitch, your actual pitch must be amazing, because that sounds incredible.
Yeah.
But you know what, people, it's not for everybody. It's not for everybody. One of the first things I learned in my own business was, if you don't do it, it doesn't get done. Because you're a small bit like, it's the same with you guys. If you don't do it, nothing happens. Yeah. In a big network agency or a big business, if you don't do it, someone picks it up. You can hide for a pretty long time in a big business. With our place, you can't. And for some people, and I'm like, what I really hate in my own business is people saying, oh, that doesn't work, Chris. Or it's kind of, I'm like, you've got the power to change it. Like, I couldn't be giving you more responsibility and accountability to change the way the business is. Like, I'm here to fix things for you. I'm not here to tell you what to do. Like, I'm here to break down any barriers that you have to stop you from doing the thing that we're broadly asking everybody to do, which is change the business for the better. Like that's it. So yeah, so I went on a tangent there.
No, not at all. This show's all about tangents. I think every conversation I have is like, yeah, exactly. Mate, like friendship and everything aside, like, yeah, just want to acknowledge like the journey that you've gone on, because as you said, like 7-8 years down the line, you had a very financially successful business, and that probably aligned with like an initial goal of like building something to sell, but you were like, I suppose, are honest and brave enough to kind of like stare that down and say, no, there's a different way to do things, and then you've gone on that journey and built that. And I think this is work-wise, I think this is the happiest I've seen you in terms of like fulfillment yourself. Yeah. And it's probably because you've really sort of stepped into.
Yeah, I think so. Well, I don't feel like I'm trying to be anyone else.
No.
And if that's not enough for this business at some point, then so be it. I think you have to be a bit zen about these things, don't you? It's like kind of, you can't really, you can control it. Obviously, you can set the agenda for the business, but sometimes you're not enough like to do a thing. Sometimes that's okay to acknowledge that. And I think one of the things that, again, and weirdly, I was chatting to someone about this yesterday. I'm really interested to know what I don't know. I'm always looking for feedback, and always looking for people to kind of get. And I'm like, I always remember the first presentation I ever did for this agency. Went out there, presented some strategy. I'd never really done strategy before, pure strategy. So I was kind of it was quite a lot to do. And I remember the first thing I did was sit down with the guys, 3 of us or 4 of us at the time, and said, talk to me about whether that was any good. Or was it like, what could I do better? Or like, was I clear? Or was it like, I need that feedback. And I think, so I think, I'm pretty happy doing what I'm doing. I take great satisfaction from us having gone on that journey that you said, took the decision to change it, stood by it, create good work, got really nice people in the business. And I just don't feel like we're, like I said, this homogenous agency that's trying to convince everyone they're different anymore. Like, we are a different type of business.
Yeah, and I suppose the anti-sell that you sort of said there, I think I'm sure that's kind of like that must be the energy that sort of when clients sort of come to you, it's almost like we do a phenomenal job, but this is the way we think we're not right for everyone. Yeah. And I think there's great strength, and even like us as creatives, that's kind of like a lot of those initial conversations. It's like we're going to do a phenomenal job, but you don't. I think if you go sit in the middle ground where you're trying to sort of be right for everyone, then you don't stand for anything. And I think it's very weak, and I don't think it leads to the best work. I don't think it leads to the best of anything. But if you're like, no, you do this, and you're very, very strong around how you do things and who you're right for, then I think that's an even greater win for clients as well. It feels like you, the agency, and everything's in like a really, really positive place at the moment. Great momentum, great people on board, super expansive. If you, and I know already you alluded to this, it's not really about sort of like chasing financial targets or other bits, but like if you dialed forward, going through everything we've spoken about here about sort of growth and everything else, you dial forward like a year or 18 months, and we're sitting here having this conversation, and it's just gone like, you're like, wow, that's gone to where I was hoping to take it strategically and everything. Well, what does that look like 18 months from now? Like if it was just like, that's exactly where I wanted to take things.
So look, we're a portfolio business, so we have a set of clients on our portfolio. As a healthy business, you don't want one client being too big a slice of that, revenue pie. So we recently hired a new business director and a new head of hype for the business to kind of keep the marketing function going and to go out and aggressively find new business. So I think, number one, we would have further diversified the client portfolio. Number two, through that, we would have markedly increased fee revenue and started to, move into profit again as a business. I think thirdly, we would have we're doing the right type of work, the right type of clients. And again, we're not just, this is the learning that I've made, is that, you know, it's all right to say no to clients sometimes in terms of the work and the opportunity. Like, you know, we need to be more qualified in the way that we take things on or not. So I think, you know, it'd be having the right type of clients as well as just more clients. We often talk about how growing a business in terms of people, but I mean, honestly, you know, what are the metrics that matter in a business? Are you making money? So is there margin that can support the business? Is everyone getting paid fairly and well looked after and the rest of it? Like, that's, you know, a fundamental part. We won Best Places to Work for our media publication campaign.
Oh, it's the campaign magazine.
Yeah, so Campaign Magazine Best Places to Work, we won for 2 years in a row. Last year we dropped to 17th, I think, or 18th in the list. That pissed me off because it pissed me off because I knew that we were going to drop down. I knew people weren't as happy as they should be. I knew we were going through change. I knew that we'd taken our off the ball a little bit culturally. So for me, one of the best metrics that we could have that would make me go in 12 to 18 months' time, this is on the right path, is we get back up into number one again. Because that just shows that, you know, I feel privileged that people come into work for me every day, come to work for the agency every day. I don't take it for granted. I feel lucky that we get to give them work and salary, and they can go and live their lives in the way they want to have babies, get married, do all that sort of stuff. I think that's amazing, like, as a business owner. And I want to make it as cool a place to work for them. Like, as cool a place as it can be. So that they're kind of happy to come in, engaged while they're here, talk about us in a positive way to their friends and family, and, you know, enjoy their work life. Like, that's kind of, I really do believe, and I really believe that if you do that, the commercials will take care of themselves. Like, I genuinely believe that. It's yet to be proved correct on that, but I really believe it, that, you know, that if you create a nice, good, supportive environment for smart, creative people, they'll surprise you and the business will do brilliantly.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more. What would stop you getting there?
I guess, you know, wrong hires, miscommunication of vision and values of us as an organisation, taking our eye off the ball, like, you know, head down, just looking at the client work, putting up with bad behaviours, like not squashing bad behaviours, both client and internal behaviours, quickly enough. Like, we've done that before in the past. You know, we've put up with bad behaviours in the office too soon. One of the things we're looking at a lot at the moment is feedback. So how do we feedback quicker? How do we feedback more honestly? How do we feedback trying to think now if it's Netflix. It's a great book called No Rules Rules. I sound like a fucking library, don't I? No Rules Rules. And in that they talk about radical candor, like being radically honest, and like, it's quite a brutal place to work, Netflix, historically, because people would just pick you out and go, oh, do you know what, Toby, you didn't really articulate that very clearly, or I think you made that person feel a bit, you know, change it, move on. So I think if we're not feeding back and being honest with each other well enough, that will affect the ability of the business to be better and evolve, you know, and all that. If we get too comfortable, don't get too comfortable. Someone actually, again, weirdly said to me last night, are you comfortable where we are? I was like, hell no, I'm not comfortable where we are. I'm really happy that we've got new people in and we've got a really interesting business now and new blood. Yeah. I'm not comfortable. Like, I want us to keep going. Yeah. Like, where are you going to go now? Yeah. So, yeah.
For us, of sort of like starting this as well, is like, we've spoken about this, not the lessons you can kind of pass on, but for me it's like, and you've said a lot of this, it's like having that mindset of like curiosity. And even for us now, and we're talking about this as a duo and with lots of other projects we've got, and it's like get people that think, in many ways, like bring that diversity of thought into our team, and also feel like people around us with like that are way better than us in so many other ways, and just get those and just almost like getting that right, you know, that right person, that right mindset in so many different roles. And it's the only way for us, I think, as we move forward with lots of things to expand, is to get, you know, more people that drive us and make us think differently. And you know, we were talking about this just off camera beforehand, and me just coming back from the 1% for the Planet like conference over in or summit over in the US, and I'm working at that, like it's almost like I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't know that was a thing. Didn't know that was a thing. Like constantly, and there's and the influences from a lot of the indigenous cultures that are over there, and the people that came on and spoke, and I was so like charged up and alive and like high from the experience, and came back with like notes and pages and pages of like, okay, I need to, how do I integrate this into my life now? How do I take this forward? And I want to like almost like even more now seeking out different influences and different conversations to shape. And I think it's just going to lead to what it does, lead to better work, better impact, all the metrics of success for me going forward. It's just going to like supercharge all that. But I just,
Yeah. Oh, do you know what as well? The other thing, sorry, it's turned into like the world's longest conversation, but we running a business is a really lonely experience. Like you constantly double, trying to guess if you're doing the right thing, or like, questioning yourself all the time. Even if you've got partners around you, it's a really lonely experience. So like, and it's really important to have people around you who go through the same thing. It's like being a dad, or like being a husband. Like, it doesn't matter how many books you read, like everyone's experience is different. It's like universal, but really personal. And I think, I was lucky enough, I went onto a Goldman Sachs business growth course last year at Oxford University for 3 months, and was put in a room with like 70 other business owners from all around the country, from like people that run kitchen fitting companies to like, I was the guy who did a lift, there's like a lift company, or like charitable organisations and stuff, physiotherapy, and like, and they're all different, but everyone has the same struggles. Everyone kind of doubts themselves. Everyone feels like they're winging it. 12 years deep, I still feel like I'm winging it every day, and it's just important, I think, to surround yourselves with people who go, oh, I feel like that as well. Like, yeah, I really do, Everyone's got that imposter syndrome. So, yeah, it's hard.
what is your support network for you as a CEO, Chris?
Family, I suppose, friends, increasingly the business itself, like, increasingly I think we have more honest conversations about stuff like that in the business, which is good. I think I'm a lot better at not internalising it all now. I'm better at talking about it and knowing when I'm feeling stressed or kind of, stuff like that. So, and then just other, like I say, other people who have similar experiences and like know that they, can offer me a different perspective on how to do a thing, or to, run what it's like to run a business, just to know that everyone's in the same kind of boat, So yeah, it's just important to have people around you, right?
Yeah.